All right, welcome to our very first flip video lesson. So today we're just going to give a quick overview of what the flip video is going to look like, what you're going to be expected to do, and then a little bit on lesson 2.01, how long is long. So let's go ahead and get started. So your flip video, what is a flip classroom? So a flipped classroom is basically where you're doing what you would typically in a regular school do at home. And then when you come to class, you're going to do what you would typically do at home, but with the guidance of your teacher and with the guidance of your classmates. So basically a flip video or flip classroom is the base learning takes place from a 10-minute video, then application and learning support take place during class time. So when I say 10 minutes, it will typically be right around 10 minutes. Sometimes it might be a little less, sometimes it might be a little more, but for most purposes, it will be about 10 minutes, okay? So the teacher, my job is to create a video lecture and then to share it with you in a way that you can easily see it. And then once we're in class, then my job is to facilitate discussion. So basically do my teacher role, help you with any questions you have, help with the lesson, kind of talk a little bit more about the lesson, and then answer any questions that you bring with you. And then your job before class is to watch the lecture video and then prepare questions. So if you see something on the video that you don't understand or that you're maybe a little unsure of or you're questioning or you're curious about, or maybe you have a comment to add in, go ahead and jot those down. And then when you come to class, you're going to ask those questions and then you're going to participate in different activities or different slides that we have in the classroom. So it's really not anything new. It's just kind of a little different. A little different maybe than what you've done in the past. So what is a flip video? So my job, like I said, is to create a video for you. So this is a video that your teacher, me, will create with important concepts on the lesson that we'll be covering for that day. So again, this flip video today is a little bit more instructive on what a flip video is with a little bit of content. Moving forward, we'll have a lot more content that will be involved in our flip videos. Why is it important for students to watch the flip video before class? It is important for you to watch the flip video so you come to class prepared to do group activities and so you have a base understanding of the lesson, so you understand what we're talking about. So when we start doing activities, you're not having to, research in your book or, look in your OMS. You kind of have an understanding of what we're going to be talking about. And then I know you're probably asking yourself, okay, well, will there be time during the school day to watch the flip video lessons? Because I know that you have a lot to do during the school day. So yes, there will be time. You are encouraged to watch the video for the next day's lesson during the independent study time after class, or you may choose to watch it in the evening or before school begins. Just please make sure that it is complete before you come to class the following day. Okay, so that's the key part, is that it's done before you come to class. You don't want to wait until class or after class to watch the video lesson for that day. All right, and that will become more clear as we move forward and as we do this more. So this is going to be what it's going to look like. Your flip video, there'll be a link here. Right here you can see I don't have a link in there yet, but that's where the recorded link will be. So you'll see these flip video notes in your OMS. And if you want to watch the flip video on your own, maybe after class or before class or during this study time, you'll go ahead and click on this link here and you'll have it there to watch. It'll be in the notes. It'll also be posted as a separate link in your OMS. And again, that will make more sense to you once we start doing these on a regular basis. So this is how your flip video notes will look. I'll go ahead and describe this or talk about this on the video. So lesson 2.01 details, we've got the Human Odyssey reading pages 16 to 18, which is right here. And I know lesson 2.01 has pages 16 to 20. But for this specific lesson, we're only covering pages 16 to 18. So I'll try and keep the page numbers specific to what we're studying during this lesson. So student guide workbook pages 19 to 23. Right here, again, we'll probably mostly be concentrating just on, 21, 22, and 23 in this lesson. But I do put all of them on there because it does have the objectives. Like if you look on page 19, it's got an introduction, it's got the objectives in there. So again, when you're doing your flip video lesson, This is going to be hugely important. You're going to have this by your side. And then you also should have your book should you need to refer to it. But more importantly will be your student guide. Several of the lessons you will actually be writing in your student guide and following along during the flip video, okay? So the OMS assignment for 2.01 is your test, your assessment, your quiz. Remember, when I say OMS, that means online middle school. So that's the actual test that you do on the computer, and that's for this lesson. And then about the topic, I'll just put something in there small so you know what this lesson's about. For lesson 2.01, it's about prehistory and history. All right, moving on. So what are we learning about today? Unit 2 objectives. So these are all the objectives of Unit 2. We're just covering 3 of them for lesson 2.01, comparing prehistory and history in terms of span of time, describe prehistory and history in terms of written records, and identify spans of time between the emergence of hunting-gathering societies and the beginning of agriculture, the beginning of civilization, and the 21st century. So all those other objectives we'll cover in other lessons during Unit 2, and some will overlap. You know, we may come back to some of these, or some may overlap between 2 lessons, but for this lesson in particular, these are the 3 that we will be covering. And so that'll always do an introduction. This typically comes right from your OMS. You are studying history, the story of the human past, and change over time. One way to study history is to read a history book. But what if there were no history books? What if people didn't know how to write? There was a time when writing did not exist. Historians called this period prehistory, the time before written records. They use the term history to describe the period from which we do have written records. And believe it or not, prehistory covers a much, much longer span of time than history does. So remember that prehistory time is just simply time before written records. So prehistory and history. And sometimes they'll put a picture in there. Sometimes it will be directly from your OMS. Sometimes it will be from another source, but just kind of a visual, something to look at there. Sorry about that. My thing came up there. There we go. Okay, so the period before we have written records is called prehistory. We know the time existed, but we do not have written records of this time. The time period for prehistory is 2,502,000 BC to 3,200 BC. Okay, remember that BC is before Christ. It's the same thing as BCE, before Common Era. And then history is the period from which we have written records. And the time period spans from 3,200 BC to AD 2021 and beyond, obviously, but we haven't gotten past 2021 yet. Okay? And you can write these notes down. You can write them in little sidebars. Sometimes, like I said, there'll be actual activities in this book. For this, there are not, so you can just write it in little sidebars if you have notations that you want to make. Important vocabulary words to understand. We need to understand prehistory, which is the period before written records. Understand history, the period after written records to present. Agriculture is just another word for farming. And innovations, just another word for advancements in inventions and technology. And just a quick note, when we hear the word technology now, we think of electronics. You know, we think of our phones, we think of our computers, we think of, you know, our TVs. Technology wasn't always about electronics. It wasn't always something that had to be plugged in. Technology could be a shovel. Technology could be a wheel. Technology could be, you know, a boat. So when you're thinking of the word technology, make sure you're not, you know, narrowing it down to something electronic. Okay. All right. So then this part of the flip video lesson, this is an example of things, activities that you will actually do in your student guide. So a lot of times I'll have the activity up there. Sometimes it will be required. Sometimes it will be optional. If it's required, we typically do it during the flip video lesson or during class. In this case, and you can see there, it says page 21. If I turn to page 21 in my student guide, you're going to see there's an activity called visualizing time. And I have that here on the board. It doesn't look exactly the same, but pretty close. So we're going to put these in chronological order. And the word chronological means order from start to finish or end to start. Chronological means in order by date. So if you take a look at these, the practice of agriculture begins. The Sumerians developed writing. Humans developed the first stone tools. Cities develop along the Tigris and Euphrates River. and then the last ice age ends. Obviously, you could research those and see what time periods those were, but I have the time periods right there for you. Approximately 8,000 BC, 3,200 BC, and so on. And remember, when we're talking about BC, that timeline, it's like a negative number. Anything BC or BCE is like a negative number. So if right here is 0 on your timeline, everything on this side would be negative. Everything on this side would be positive. So obviously 2021, that would be our positive side. Anything AD, Anno Domini, or CE, Common Era, would be the positive side. Anything BC or BCE would be the negative side. So if we put those in chronological order, obviously we're going to go from 1, which would be right here, all the way down to, 2 million years ago over here, because they're like a negative number. Okay. Time is always moving forward, but on a timeline, the negative numbers go this way. So we're going to go ahead and do that and then talk about the questions below. So I'm going to go ahead and move the slide here. You can pause the video and you can do this on your own, or you can do it with us in class. Typically in your regular flip video lessons, this is where you would pause the video, you would complete this activity, or we'll do it in class. And then you'll see, typically then on the next slide, I'll have something with the answers on it or directive on what you need to do. So if we take a look at this, you can go ahead and pause the video again and you can fill in your chart, or you can check to make sure that you have it correct. It's chronologically ordered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up. And then the questions below, how much time has passed between the development of the first stone tools and the development of agriculture? Simple math, you just take that number minus the other number, and the answers are there. So again, we're not going to do a lot with this right now. This is just an example of flip videos and how they will work. But please feel free to pause the video so you can go ahead and take a closer look at this, and you can fill this in. We're actually also going to be doing this lesson in class today. And then this is an example of something that would be optional. So this is an optional assignment on your student guide, pages 22 to 23. You can do this on your own, or you can do it with your learning coach, or you don't need to do it at all. Sometimes in our student guide, there will be activities that are really good. I just feel maybe there wouldn't be time to get it in a regular class period, so I make it optional. So for those of you that want to do that, you can. They definitely will always help with additional understanding and additional learning, but they're not required. So this would be an example of one of those activities. Okay? All right. And then I typically, towards the end, I always have some kind of quote. I use a book. It's called the Harper Book of Quotations right here. And I typically take notes or take quotes from this book. Just some are good historical quotes. Some are kind of funny and silly. Some are ones that may relate to the lesson. So I just kind of try and mix it up. And I do think that learning from others' wording is always beneficial. So this was from Max Beerbohm. And the past is a work of art, free of irrelevancies and loose ends. So just something for you to think about and I guess interpret how he meant that to be interpreted. And then we come to the end of our flip video. So I always will thank you for joining me. Sometimes I put it up kind of a fun little meme or quote. Stay positive, stay fighting, stay brave, stay ambitious, stay focused, and stay strong. So here we're at the end of our flip video. I did go a little over the 10 minutes today, but typically, like I said, they will rest right around that 10-minute period. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful day.